Between client meetings, managing your business, and everyday tasks, who has time to worry about website hosting? With Kinsta's managed WordPress hosting, you don't have to. They handle the technical stuff, delivering lightning-fast load times, enterprise-grade security, and 24/7 365 human-only support. Simply switching to Kinsta could make your site up to 200% faster. Kinsta's custom dashboard makes managing sites easy, with powerful features designed to save you time and effort. Plus, their free expert-led migrations ensure a smooth transition. Ready to see why Kinsta is trusted by thousands of businesses? Get your first month free at kinsta.com. That's KINSTA.com. Kinsta. Simply better hosting.
Offer valid on standard browsers, US only.
When I heard about Date My Age, I thought, really? But there I was in my empty, quiet house, my laptop on the kitchen counter, and I typed in my name. Looking for a man between the ages of 40 to 60? Sure, why not?
Date My Age is different. With verified profiles, you can feel safe and secure to explore meaningful connections with interesting and mature singles.
Date My Age made it really easy. I could join and view online profiles for free. All of a sudden, my empty house wasn't so quiet anymore. I got so much attention, it just made me feel seen and alive. Date My Age helped me start a totally new chapter in my life.
Find a friend, a lover, a partner at Date My Age. Get 60% off when you join at datemyage.com today. That's datemyage.com to connect with thousands of singles worldwide. datemyage.com.
Coming up on episode 404 of Wheel Bearings, we got the 2025 Cadillac Escalade, the electric G-Wagon, no more manual Versas, Amazon and Stellantis call off their smart cockpit deal, Antonio Filosa gets the top job at Stellantis. They got the 2026 Jeep Cherokee first images. Tesla's FSD still doesn't stop for school buses. The one-year-only Dodge Durango Hellcat is back for year number 5. Updates to the SAE J3400 standard for NACS charging connectors. And Nicole and Sam talk about the Toyota BZ for 2026. And GM may be producing LFP cells with LG and Samsung in the U.S. soon. All that and more coming up next. All right, this is episode 404 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Samad from Telemetry.
And I'm Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
And Nicole is off in California in the San Diego general area doing some stuff with Hyundai for a couple of days. And also taking her husband to the Julian Pie Company for the very first time. So it's going to get to eat some pie.
I got one of those Julian Pies once, and I traveled with it. I went from a Hyundai event to, I think it was I think I took it to Monterey Car Week.
I know.
So I'm just flying around the state and drive. It was, I figured it was in 9 different vehicles, counting planes, buses, trams, shuttles, cars, etc.
I know Nicole has flown back to Massachusetts, back to Boston at least twice with whole Julian Pies.
Yeah,
carrying them on board.
That was a pretty good pie.
Yeah,
it was just funnier that it's been around. It was in 9 different vehicles and ended up in a different part of the state.
All right. Did you drive anything?
I did, but only for a few days. So this isn't like a full, because I haven't had a chance to do a lot with it. But Mercedes dropped off the electric G-Wagon.
Ooh,
yeah. So I am very excited about it. It is. So for years I've told Mercedes, you know what? I haven't driven a G-Wagon before, and for years Mercedes has said, "Oh yeah, that's no problem. We'll set you up with one. Just give us a call when you get home, and we'll send you a G-Wagon so you can do so you can have a proper experience with that vehicle." And I never did. And this is not Mercedes' fault. This is my fault. This is my inability to follow through. And also, I have other things I have to cover. And at the time, the G-Wagon wasn't new. It would have just been me driving a G-Wagon, which I'm like, well, do I really have time to do that, and typically I don't. But I should have said yes. Anyway, now that it's new, now that it's electric, now it fits perfectly into what I do. And so so I got the G580 with EQ technology. It's a 2025. It has 579 horsepower, 859 pound-feet of torque. It supports DC fast charging up to 200 kilowatts. I like it. I'm enjoying it. It is exactly what it is. It is a G-Wagon, and it gets a lot of notice whenever I'm rolling around in it. I know that my wife really enjoys it. But what's nice that
what does she like about it?
I think just everything. It's just she's not a car person. I don't think she knows the context of what a G-Wagon is in the world, whereas it's essentially just an Instagram car. It's for rich people to show off that they have a G-Wagon. That's no one uses the capabilities of a G-Wagon. No one buys a G-Wagon and does like awesome G-Wagon stuff. Everyone buys a G-Wagon and then they drive it to a very fancy shop or to a very fancy restaurant or they do fancy things in it, which is just kind of roll around with their friends in it, which is, fine. Do whatever you want with your car. My take is like, this is awesome. We could drive up a mountain. Let's go drive up a mountain.
So are you going to do that?
I'm going to try. We'll see. It's a little tough here. I'm like in between two like off-road parks, and there are a couple places you can like dirt roads, which I'm like, okay, I could take my BRZ on a dirt road. Who cares? And I haven't had the chance to spin it around in circles yet, which is the thing.
I was just going to ask you if you're going to do tank turns with it.
I am going to.
I believe the correct terminology for this one is the G-turn.
The G-turn. I will definitely be doing G-turns. So yeah, I just got it. I essentially I got it. I filled it full of band gear and I went and did a show. And then I think I went and bought, and what else? I went and bought some pie with it last night. So yeah, I haven't
get the important stuff done.
The important stuff. So I haven't had a chance to do cool things with it, but there's a lot of visibility out of it, which I was surprised. Mostly, it's not that big of a vehicle. It's actually pretty short. When you're parking in a parking space, that's when you realize how it's not that big. Like when I was putting the guitars in, I actually had to put the seats down to get the guitars into the back seat. And so yeah, it's not.
It's about the same size as a Wrangler, right?
Yeah, about the same size as a Wrangler. So it's not that big. You can actually see, where you're going. It's cool when you put the blinkers on. You can see the giant blinker, the lamp right there on the fenders. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really digging it. I'm digging everything about it. I'm a big fan of the Defender, big fan of the Bronco. I like this the best because it's electric. I can just plug it in and be done with it. It's quiet, and then of course I can do the G-turn at some point. I might go do one today as a test before I was going to shoot a little bit of video with it on Thursday. So yeah, no. So that's what I have. This is sort of a precursor to what it is, or to a proper, like, I drove it around. This is what it's like. But for now, I really enjoy it. I would enjoy it more if it just didn't have a bunch of stuff in it, like a lot of the tech in there. And I don't really need any of that stuff. I like the off-road stuff, but it's very expensive. The base price for this one, suggested retail price, $161,500. Total retail price of the one I got, $178,450. Whew. But the I think it rubellite red metallic paint, which is beautiful, no charge, free.
Oh wow.
Yeah, free paint. So
that's nice. That's a nice bonus.
Free with like the world's largest air quotes.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling around in the G-Wagon this week. I'll have more information for us for next week. Awesome. And it should be get excited. Get G-sided. I don't know.
Well, I also had an SUV that has a 4-wheel drive low range, but is considerably larger than a G-Wagon. Way bigger than a G-Wagon, and that is the 2025 Cadillac Escalade Platinum 4-wheel drive. So
I parked next to an Escalade in the G-Wagon, and it's just like parking next to a limousine, that's what it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's what most Escalades get used for. Is for black car services, livery services. But and this isn't even the long wheelbase version. This is just the standard length Escalade. But for 2024, it got some updates. The interior, the dashboard has been redone. It's basically got the same type of dashboard setup that is in the Cadillac Celestiq, their electric flagship sedan. So it has the coast to coast 55-inch display across the dashboard. And then also the angled lower display for some of the climate control stuff down on the center console. So unlike the Lincoln Navigator, which has kind of something somewhat similar, but where Lincoln basically made their display vertical, so it's much harder to use. Cadillac at least angled it, so you can kind of glance down at it, and there's some stuff that's still manually controlled. Like, for example, the Escalade, you can reach out, grab the little tab, move the vents. Don't have to go anywhere near the touchscreen.
Done and done. There you go. The better car. You won.
Yeah,
it's over. Game over.
But the display, in the Navigator and the Nautilus, the big 48-inch display is not a touchscreen, and it's mounted up further away from you, closer to the base of the windshield. The basic premise being that it's closer to your line of sight when you're driving, so you're not looking away from the road as much to glance at it, which is fine. So there's no touchscreen there. The only touchscreen is that lower one on the center console for all the climate control stuff, which is kind of a pain in the neck, actually. Mm-hmm. The screen in the Escalade is a little bit closer to you than it is in the Navigator, and it is a touchscreen, and it's got their Android Automotive, Google built-in infotainment system. But the problem is, even though it's closer than the screen in the Navigator, it's still kind of a far reach to get to it to actually hit. So you actually have to, I have to lean forward. You might be able, you're all arms and legs.
If I might be able to reach it. But if I have to reach for something, that's always a sign that normal people will have to lean forward.
Yeah. And so it's a bit of a reach to get to that touchscreen. The other, one of the other things that they did this year, actually, I'm not sure if it's new for 2025, but the Platinum trim that I had, which is the top end trim for the Escalade, has 24-inch wheels and very low profile tires, which actually, in terms of ride quality, because it's also got an air spring suspension, the ride quality actually wasn't bad. But I live in Michigan, and I really don't want tires like that on a vehicle of that type with Michigan potholes. It's just too much risk that they're going to get destroyed. The other thing that I thought was amusing was when I was looking around on the dashboard, there's on the left-hand side of the dashboard near the door, there's some buttons for the four-wheel drive controls. So you can select between auto, two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive high, and four-wheel drive low. So there's a two-speed transfer case in this thing. So there is a four-wheel drive low in this vehicle with 24-inch wheels with no sidewalls. So
I mean, sure.
Nobody is going to take an Escalade, even a regular Escalade, not just a base model. Nobody's going to take these things off-roading. Why do they bother putting a four-wheel drive low range in this thing? It's heavy enough as it is. Just make it a simple all-wheel drive system and be done with it, because that's all an Escalade's ever really going to get used for.
Yeah.
Other than that, this thing is very big and roomy, comfortable. The seats are comfy. The interior is, really nice materials, some really nice wood trim inside. It's very, very pleasant place to spend time, other than having to reach way out there for the screen. And it does still have, because this one is not electric. It's not the Escalade IQ. It still has smartphone projection. So it's still got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support, in addition to the Google services that are built in. Uh, the engine that was in mine, it's available with two different engines. You can get it with the 3-liter inline six diesel, which is a wonderful engine in a vehicle like this. I've driven the Escalade in the past with that engine in there, and it's really, really good. Lots of torque, surprisingly good fuel economy. You can get 23, 24 miles per gallon with that diesel, or even more, if you're just cruising on the highway. I had the optional, or the 6.2 liter V8 with a 10-speed automatic transmission. That one has 420 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque. So no lack of torque in this thing. I believe this is the same engine that GM recently did a recall for. Recalled about 700,000 or 800,000 of these things.
Whoops.
Because they apparently had something around like 28,000 catastrophic engine failures with them before they finally recalled it. So they decided to change to a thicker oil, which apparently gives it slightly worse fuel economy. If you have a 6.2 liter V8 built recently, they will, if you have an engine failure, they will replace it. If it hasn't failed yet, they will do some stuff to hopefully prevent it from having a failure.
If it's not dead yet, bring it on in.
Yeah, we'll try to make sure that it doesn't get dead.
Yeah.
The GM small block V8, is a lovely engine. It's powerful. It's got lots of torque. It's a very good engine for a vehicle of this type. Personally, if I was buying an Escalade, I would actually probably go with the diesel, because the diesel is so quiet, and it feels just as powerful as this one and gets way better fuel economy. The Escalade with the 6.2 liter is rated at 14 miles per gallon city, 18 highway, 16 combined. I didn't actually do a fuel economy run with this thing, but it's probably going to get somewhere around 15 or 16 miles per gallon if you're lucky. As long as you don't go do anything too crazy with it. I also tried out did a Super Cruise drive with this thing, because later this week I am getting a new Lincoln Navigator with the latest Blue Cruise, and I'm going to do a comparison against what I just experienced with against the Escalade, and the Super Cruise worked great. They haven't pushed out an update yet with some of the features I talked about a couple of weeks ago that are launching on the Vistic. So things like the automatic lane changing, when you're using navigation, so it'll change over to the lane you need to be in for your exit, things like that, as well as the automatic engagement. That stuff's not in here yet. It should be pushed out as an over-the-air update sometime in the near future. It did, however, have the update to the Google Maps, so that it shows you when you're on a Super Cruise enabled road. It draws, and you're using navigation. It'll show the white line down the middle of the thick blue line for your route when it's hands-free capable. So that is handy. Again, whether you actually need Super Cruise or not, is a story is something we've discussed many times, and you probably don't really need that. I don't think anybody actually needs that. The one I had also had the console refrigerator with freezer, which is a $700 option. What else did it have? The 24-inch 10-spoke alloy wheels. Those are an $1,800 option. If you live somewhere like Michigan, you might want to just take a pass on that. They look kind of cool, but just get the 22s.
Just get
that's big enough.
Yeah, when you're picking the person up at the airport You don't really need that.
Well, especially if you're picking them up from Detroit Metro Airport, that road, they're in the process of rebuilding the road that goes down the middle of the airport from the interstate to the terminal. But it's still pretty bad. So you're definitely better off with smaller wheels, more sidewall in your tires. This one also has the Platinum has the AKG Studio Reference audio system with 36 speakers. So speakers are everywhere. Sounds really good. Let's put it this way. It sounds better than it's beyond the capability of my ears to discern. So
That's the rub with the high end audiophile stuff, is that you can only afford it once you have lost some of the high end hearing.
yeah, I know.
Because your hearing degrades over time, and especially if you're a big fan of music, you've probably gone and seen a bunch of shows, and in some of those shows you didn't wear ear protection, and now your ears sort of degrade over time. But now you can afford all the really expensive stuff, so you don't. You got to buy the really expensive stuff, and then you got to play it for like a 12-year-old.
Yeah,
get in here.
See if they can
listen to Tom
it.
Sawyer by Rush. They're like, what is this? Why are you
listen
making
to the Frozen soundtrack through a 36 speaker audio system?
Let it go. Let it go, kids.
But overall, as big luxury SUVs go, this is, it's a great choice. If I was in the market for something like this, which I'm not, but if I was in the market, I would probably select this over a Grand Wagoneer or a Navigator. Mm-hmm. It looks good, for what it is. It's fairly quick. It has excellent ride quality, excellent audio system, has all the stuff that you want. And as long as you can reach the screen, it's fine. And so came to a grand total of $124,515. And that you want to take a guess at the destination charge?
Ooh. Okay, hold on. 1,800.
1995. Yeah.
That's more than my first car.
Yeah, that's about right.
Whew.
Yeah, that's some serious change.
Yeah.
3-ton, full-size SUV. It's it gets the job done. There's lots of room in all three rows. Like I said, very, very comfortable place to ride. And it'll tow 8,100 pounds.
Cool. So you can pick someone at the airport with a lot of luggage.
Yes.
All the luggage. What'd you bring? A plane. Could you tow my plane, please?
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. All right. Let's move on to some other stuff that happened in the past week. So wasn't that long ago that I had the Nissan Versa for a week to drive? The Versa is a very acceptable, cheap car. It's the most affordable car you can still buy in the U.S. But now for 2026 model year, it's going to be slightly less affordable. Because they are finally discontinuing the 5-speed manual transmission version.
Boo.
So
I mean, no one's probably buying it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I can boo all day, but it doesn't make people buy things.
Yeah, I know.
No matter how many times I yell at people, hey, you should be buying wagons and minivans. No one's buying wagons and minivans.
I think the manual version. So the Versa, this is the Versa S. which is the base model. Yeah, starts at $17,190 with the manual transmission. And they haven't announced pricing yet for the 26 model year, but it's probably going to go up a bit, or maybe a lot, because the Versa is assembled in Mexico. And let me see, with the CVT. Yeah, the CVT brings the price up to $19,000, including destination. So it adds about $700 to the price.
Only 5% of Versas sold were manuals.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if you want a super cheap car with a manual transmission, you better run out and buy a Versa right now. Just drive the hell out of it. But if you're a Nissan, it doesn't make sense to sell this car, even if there wasn't a. But even if what Nissan wasn't, going through the things Nissan has to go through, a 5% take rate, that's not really much of a business model. I'm surprised it stayed around as long as it did.
I know. It's not like the Versa sells in huge numbers. I mean, it's about 100,000 a year, so it's only about 5,000 manuals a year.
5,000 manual Versas. And to those people, I salute you.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, not many manuals left. All right. Stellantis had some news in the past week. Let's start off with Antonio Filosa.
Oh, new boss.
He's the new CEO of Stellantis. He got the top job. He's ever since they got rid of Carlos Tavares back in early December. He's been part of the executive committee that has been running the company while they did a search for a CEO. He was, I guess, there were a couple of internal finalists, including him, and a couple of external finalists, and they decided to go with the devil they knew instead of the devil they didn't. Not to say that Antonio Filosa is a devil. Actually, from everything I've heard about the man, from people that have worked with him over the last year and a half since he came to North America to run Jeep and then later be COO for the Americas, he's very, very highly spoken of by people in Stellantis that I've talked to.
Cool.
Yeah, he's done a lot with Jeep since he arrived. With trying to improve quality, trying to bring down. Almost right away when he came to Jeep, they slashed prices on a bunch of models, and they've been working on trying to get their suppliers in order so they get better quality, to address some of the reliability problems they've had, and also working with the dealers across the Stellantis network. So we'll see what happens. I think I wrote a blog post for my company for telemetry about this, and if you look back, it's interesting looking back at the history of, Chrysler Corporation now through Stellantis now over the last 50 years. They have oscillated back and forth between being flush with cash, making lots of profits, doing great, and being on the verge of bankruptcy.
They just can't find like a happy medium. It's always just like it's boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust.
Because going back to the late 70s when Lee Iacocca came in, saved them from bankruptcy. They went through the 80s building 50 different variations off the K car platform, having their entire lineup based on the K car, made tons of money, and then by the end of the 80s, they were going back in the toilet again. And then Bob Lutz came in and refurbished all the products. They were doing great again. And then Daimler came along and took over and cost cut everything. And they went from being hugely profitable to barely surviving. And then Daimler gave away what was left of Chrysler to a private equity firm, who then promptly, had to try and survive the financial meltdown at the end of 2008, went into bankruptcy, and then Fiat got it for nothing. And they were doing great until a couple of years ago. And, I think the big job for Filosa is not just kind of steadying the ship right now, but I think what he needs to really focus on is putting a culture in place and an organization in place that can actually make the company sustainable for the long term. So it doesn't just, get really profitable for 5 or 6 years. And then, by 2032, 2033, they're on the verge of bankruptcy again.
It's like the company that's like the king of beating a dead horse. Like they find something and they just keep doing it and doing it, which is great when they're making money. But at some point, you have to start thinking about the future. We're like, no, let's just keep doing that thing.
Why didn't we breed this horse first before we started beating it?
Yeah, exactly. So they have to breed their horses before they beat them to death. So they have because it just feels like, oh, here's a bunch of cool things. Let's never stop doing that. Like, well, should we do some other, could diversify, maybe think about the next platform of the future? Nah, the K car is going to last forever.
Yeah, everybody will always want a K car. They want big sedans based on the K car, and little compacts, subcompacts based on the K car, and sports cars based on the K car, and then some trucks.
And hopefully they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Stellantis also released the first official images of the new Jeep Cherokee, the 2026 Jeep Cherokee. What do you think?
I'm sure. I mean, it looks like a Jeep Cherokee. It's not, I don't know. It's hard to get excited about something that wait, what did they change? That's what it feels like. I'm sure there's been some changes, but it's always going to be the Jeep Cherokee. And I don't know. I guess it's fine.
Well,
it looks like a Jeep Cherokee.
I mean, it's a little boxier. It's certainly boxier than the last generation Cherokee that went out of production a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think it looks decent. I've seen several of them on the road now wrapped in camo. And it's a lot. It looks a lot like the like a smaller Grand Cherokee.
Yeah.
It's got kind of the Grand Cherokee look and feel to it. The two images that they released for it are not the hardcore off-road versions, which undoubtedly will be coming. The Trailhawk. So it's not high riding with recovery hooks and things like that. Yeah. But I think it's a decent looking vehicle. I think what's going to be interesting is it's built on the Stella Large platform, so it's the same platform as the Wagoneer S and the Charger, but they're not doing an EV version of this one. It's going to be a gas engine and a hybrid, and it's an all new hybrid system that Stellantis has developed in-house. So going to be interesting to see exactly how they do that, exactly what that is, because they haven't released any technical details of it yet.
Secret.
Yeah.
Secret hybrid. Yeah. I mean, they came out with the Grand Cherokee and the Cherokee, or the Cherokee, Grand Cherokee. Now back to the Cherokee. They always look like the Cherokee. I mean,
yeah. I mean, there was some, there was some speculation about what the name would be, whether they would keep the Cherokee name, because several years back, the leaders of the Cherokee Nation were pushing Stellantis, or I think it was actually still FCA at the time, to drop the Cherokee name.
Yeah,
and for the last year or so, whenever anybody at Stellantis refers to this vehicle, they just referred to it as the new midsize SUV. They didn't call it out by name.
I mean, I don't understand why they have to keep using the name, but I think they're Stellantis and they brand awareness, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean,
but if a nation of if a nation's like, hey, could you maybe don't do that?
Yeah.
You've already taken so much from our people. Maybe don't name a car after us.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
When they replaced the XJ Cherokee in the early 2000s, they did change the name. The replacement was called the Liberty, and they had 2 generations of Liberty.
I remember the Liberty.
Yeah, and now they've gone back to they went back to Cherokee after after the 2 generations of Liberty. The previous generation they brought back the Cherokee name, and so they're keeping that for now. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. All right. What else? One other Stellantis story. A couple of years back, Amazon Stellantis announced that they were going to develop a smart cockpit system, and now that deal's dead. They're not going to do it. They've abandoned it. It was supposed to leverage AI to plan trips, coach off-roaders on trails, and of course sell subscriptions. And now they have canceled that partnership. And apparently Stellantis is going to focus on using Android Automotive. My guess is that the Amazon AI stuff probably just wasn't working all that well.
Well, AI is, first of all, nothing that says AI is actual AI. So let's just start with that.
Yeah.
There's no AI in the world. I'm sorry to all the businesses that have been built on the back of this ridiculous marketing term. But also most of it's not very good.
Yeah.
Most of it's very bad. I would not trust AI as a off-road partner or coach.
No, definitely not.
Which is like one of the things they wanted it to do, and I'm like, I don't know. That seems like a bad idea. Plus, I'm sure the Google deal was probably, it was probably a better deal. Amazon probably wanted a lot of data. I mean, Google's going to want a lot of data as well, but Amazon probably was they want to sell vacuum cleaners and socks and Amazon Prime and Prime Video and AWS. And, it was probably like, okay, every time you start your car, it's going to have an ad for whatever show Bosch, or it's going to have an ad for
now your kids in the back seat will be able to watch their YouTube Premium instead of not watching Amazon Prime.
Yeah. So there you go. No matter what, someone has all your data. Boo.
All right. Tell me about SAE J3400/2.
Well, I'll be happy to tell you about J3400/2. So J3400, if you don't know, is the NACS port. It's the Tesla port, colloquially known. Tesla gave up the sort of control over that a few years back to SAE, which it's not like SAE owns it. It's an industry standard. So like everyone works on it everyone in the industry. Well, not everyone. I mean, some people don't. They're just whatever they're doing. But automakers, chargers, all these people, they work with SAE to come up with a standard. And the J3400/2 standard is about the actual hardware. So the actual plug and the actual inlet, those had to be changed because the regular Tesla plug, we've all seen it, that was built for a 500 volt system. Tesla supercharger stations are all 500 volts, except for like 2 of them on the East Coast somewhere. I'm not even sure where they are anymore, but it doesn't matter because you're sending more powers with these 1,000 volts. What you want to do is sort of get rid of any opportunity for there to be any sort of transition of electricity or whatever between the 3 connections. There's the positive, negative, and then there's a data port. And so if you sort of carve that away, that lessens the opportunity for there to be any sort of arc or transmission or anything like that. And so that's what J3400/2 does. If you've looked at any of ChargePoint's J3400 are NACS charging stations, they've already like sliced sort of that stuff away before. So so this is the actual physical part. I actually 3D printed one out because I thought I was going to use it for photos. Let me put it close to the camera. There you go. So it's a visual medium.
So
now you got to put this on Instagram
between the terminals.
Yeah, so you carve away that material, and then you have less. If this material is still here, there's always the opportunity for the negative and the positive, this sort of arc or whatever. So more power means you have to be a bit more careful, and being more careful, the industry is like, yeah, let's do that. And so that's that's what they're doing. So yeah, J3400 slash 2. That's, there's also J3400 slash 1, which is the adapter standard, which is the idea they work with. It's in conjunction with UL, so that all the adapters that are sold, as long as they meet the standards from UL and SAE, can be used on every car right now. Like, for instance, if you use any other adapter on a Hyundai, and it does something bad, Hyundai will void your warranty. You void the warranty by using another adapter, and that's not ideal.
Yeah.
In this world, like, all the adapters should be, well made, and so that's what that is. But yeah, J3400, it's going to bring quicker charging to those NAC stations, from Electrify America, from ChargePoint. Again, ChargePoint already has shaved all this stuff off. And so there's Electrify America stations that'll eventually come online. I think there's one, EVgo, et cetera, and then of course the 1,000-volt versions of the supercharger, which of course they're, again, 2, maybe. What's interesting is that Tesla, the engineers at Tesla actually said, hey, you guys should shave this stuff off. So it wasn't like, SAE came in and said, you guys are idiots, what are you doing? It was, Tesla was like, hey, maybe we should cut this stuff down, because, if you want to, send more power. So it was quite future proof, I think, that they thought it would be. And so they realized, oh, if we want things to go faster, we need to make things a bit safer.
So with that material, so this is still going to be backwards compatible, though.
Yep, you can plug it into everything. Everything has to be backwards compatible. So there's no, whatever you plug it into.
If you got a car with a 400 volt that only supports 400 volt charging or 500 volt charging, so this will still work fine in a Tesla or any of the other less than 800 volt systems that are out there today.
There's got to be, okay, so the Hyundai,
like all the GM stuff, all the Ford stuff is all like 400 volt.
400 volt, yeah. Are there any what else is on the market that has NACS in it?
Stuff that has NACS now. Lucid
so
Gravity
Hyundai and Lucid are both
Hyundai,
800
Kia.
and 1,000. So those are fine. Yeah, those are the ones you kind of think of. You think of when you think of these like super quick charging vehicles, and why this makes a lot of sense. Some of the vehicles that are coming online with NACS that'll have 400 volt systems, those will be, they could use the old one. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. But all this stuff is backwards compatible. That's one of the main things they have to like really worry about, because you can't just sort of, stop using thousands upon thousands upon thousands of charging stations, which is sort of the reason why everyone ended up going to NACS in the first place, because the Tesla supercharging network is vast and its uptime is better than everyone else. And so because of that, Ford went over, and then everyone else sort of followed suit.
Okay. And then so the lower voltage vehicles that have NACS, those will work fine with this new connector.
Yep.
And then for the is there also a change to the charge port on the cars for vehicles that have higher voltage capabilities? Will they also have a revised charge port, or is that going to stay the same?
I think it's mostly I think there might be some slight changes that aren't really. I was looking at the 3D renderings that they sent me of the thing, and I was spinning it around and trying to figure out like what the difference was. And really the big difference is what the charger,
the connector on the cable.
The connector on the cable, yeah. Okay. I think there's like some minimal changes to the actual charging, the inlet. But the connector on the cable is what, that was the big deal and the big news, really.
Okay.
So yeah, making charging quicker. Again, I think people are like, oh, it's a Tesla port. I'm like, well, they gave up that standard to SAE and essentially the community, the automotive and charging community. So yeah, a lot of automakers, a lot of people working together to make this happen with the task force head, Rodney McGee, heading all this. Smart guy, nice guy.
Cool. And then I guess, yeah. Okay. I guess that's it for that connector then.
Yeah, there's
So
not.
I guess,
It's a big deal, but there's not much more than like, look.
yeah. So as EA and EVgo and ChargePoint, I mean ChargePoint, you said ChargePoint's already doing it. As
If you look at the
Iona and
Omni,
others,
if you look at the Omni charger,
yeah,
was it their Omni
the
charger? It
OmniPort.
already has it. The Omni port. It already has this. If you look at
Okay.
that, and if you the other just NACS chargers that they have at their HQ that they probably have out in the world, like a lot of them are starting to come out with
What about
the shaved
Iona?
box.
Because Iona's 800-volt chargers, and they have both CCS and NACS connectors on all their chargers.
They need to put one near my house so I can go look. Iona's weird because they reached out very early. I reached out to them, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll keep you in the loop," and then they just sort of didn't.
Yeah,
and I've been busy with all the other stuff that I haven't had a chance to sort of reach out, and it's one of those things that I like to do is go out to the station and sort of talk to somebody and see what they're doing, and so it's a lot more difficult when they're on the other side of the country, where, to be honest, charging infrastructure needs, we need better infrastructure over there than they do next to my house, where there's, again, I can't swing a stick without hitting a charging station.
Let me see. There's currently, looks like there's 14 Iona stations open now. Closest one to you is in southeast Arizona, east of Tucson. Looks like it's out in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, that's great. If I'm cool.
There's 3 in Kansas, 1 in Missouri, a couple in Texas, a couple in North Carolina. You know what? Let's see. Are any of these near Charlotte? Because I'm going to Charlotte tomorrow. No, doesn't look. Where is Charlotte? No, there's 3 of them around Raleigh, which is where their headquarters is, and there's 1 in southern Georgia, and a couple in Ohio.
It used to be super cool to show off like your charging, like the little charging port itself, but no one does that anymore because the average person just doesn't care. I don't blame them. Why should you care about, as long as it just plugs in your thing? It's like me. It's like Apple showing off like the USB-C port or the Lightning port. Like, it was kind of like important before, but now they're not going to shut. It's not forward facing. So, or public facing information. So I'll look on Iona's site, and it's mostly like, hey, look, we got a lot of cars and you can get a sandwich.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's apparently a what do you call it? A taco truck nearby, which I'm always a big fan of. So I'm excited about the taco trucks that'll be near these, because that's one of the things, like when I travel down to LA, I specifically have charging stations that I go to.
Because there's going to be a taco truck there?
Because I know there's either a taco station truck, there's a truck nearby, or there is a taqueria. Like, I'm basing my charging on food. It's food related. Yeah, it's food related.
Tacos.
Yeah, my planning is based on food, and of course getting my EV ready to go to LA for whatever reason I have to go down there.
Okay,
but mostly food.
Awesome. All right, let's move on. So there is one more Stellantis story I forgot to mention. Stellantis last week announced details on the 2026 Dodge Durango, and the special 1 year only Durango Hellcat edition is back for its 5th straight year.
1 year only.
Yep. So if you missed out,
it is. It's in giant desert tortoise years. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's not in human years. It's like in giant. So they still got like 4 more years of it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. So if you missed out on getting a Hellcat powered Durango for the last 4 years, you can still get one for even though didn't they have a final edition for 2025? I feel like you did.
I think so. I feel like it's like the Who. The Who's never going to stop touring.
Well, yeah. Well, because they need the money.
Yeah. They're like, oh no, we spent all our money.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Okay. So Hellcat's still alive in the Durango. Who knows? Maybe they'll even put it back in the new Charger.
Who knows?
Yeah.
As long as the new Charger doesn't keep speeding up for no reason.
Yeah. All right. And then Tesla. I think we've talked about the Dawn project before, right? That's Dan O'Dowd, who's the founder and CEO of Green Hill Software. And Green Hill Software makes software and tools for developing really secure, safe software. A lot of their stuff is used for things like aerospace applications, used in automotive, used in a lot of military stuff. And these guys know how to make safe and secure software. O'Dowd has been on a crusade against Tesla for the last several years. He launched something called the Dawn Project, and periodically they do some testing with Tesla vehicles with FSD, and to show just how unsafe they are. And one of the tests that they run from time to time is will a Tesla on FSD recognize a school bus that's pulled over with its lights flashing and the stop signs sticking out? And every time they do this, including the most recent time, just a week or so ago, when they did it with a Tesla that was running the version 13.2.9, which is one of the latest versions, the car still in broad daylight completely ignored the fact that there was a school bus there with its lights flashing, the stop signs out, and ran over a child-sized mannequin that was stepping out in front of the bus.
Yeah, see, that's I felt, we've been talking about this for so long, and still I have people yelling at me, sending me angry emails, yelling at me on various social networks that Teslas are self-driving when they, in fact, are not self-driving. The reliance on camera only is a fallacy. It is not a smart idea. It's essentially to save money, and to say, well, they're deploying it because they're saving money so they can get all these cars out. I'm like, but it doesn't work. Who cares if they're saving money? If a thing doesn't work, who cares if they're saving money? It's like, yeah, I got a hamburger and it was $5 cheaper. Well, what's it made of? I don't know, just some random bits they found. Random bits of what? Who knows?
It gave me the runs, but
It gave me the runs. I vomited
cheap
for 3 days, but it was cheaper. So
yeah.
that's the videos watching the, and there's even a little stop sign that pops out on this. It's not like it's just the little red lights, which whenever people are like, oh, self-driving cars, most self-driving cars don't even recognize when I have my turn signal on still.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like there's so many things. And I always give people the scenario where if there's a cop in the street and he tells you to stop, the Tesla or the self-driving car, whatever it is going to stop because it recognize, well, hopefully, well, maybe not, but it should stop because it sees a person, not because their hands up. But then when the person waves you by, the self-driving vehicle doesn't understand that. They don't have the context. They don't have the understanding. All they see is human in the road. That's it. And you can understand that, but the self-driving car doesn't understand that. And it's still cheaper to just pay humans to drive other humans around.
Yeah. Although, Tesla still says they're going to be launching their robo-taxi service in Austin on June 12th with the fleet of Model Ys. And it's almost certainly, they will probably be driving Model Ys around Austin with nobody in the driver's seat. But most of the speculation, and this is what I figure they're going to do, and others like Dr. Phil Koopman from Carnegie Mellon, who's also been a big Tesla critic, think that what's actually going to happen is that they're going to have remote operators that are supervising.
I think they actually said they were going to have remote operators supervising.
Yeah, and they'll be doing the intervention. And so instead of somebody behind the wheel intervening, it'll be somebody doing it remotely. That's not a great idea.
Yeah. It's at that big Tesla event in Hollywood, or actually in Burbank. Yeah, Burbank. I stumbled onto that room.
Yeah.
Which they didn't talk about. And I wrote it up in my SAE article, which was like, oh, I found the room where they're remote operating these vehicles and making sure they don't run into people, even though like everything was blocked. It was extremely controlled environment. It's essentially like Autopia, the ride at Disneyland, except without the little rail in the middle. That was essentially the entire Tesla event. That and robots that are pre-programmed to do things, like the robots you could have got in the 80s, except now they can stand up, which Boston Dynamics has been doing for ever. So it's I don't know. It's terrifying. I'm glad I don't live in Austin. I'm glad I don't have children. I'm glad I don't have children who ride a school bus in Austin.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing what happens when they let these vehicles loose on the streets of Austin.
I'm hoping that there's enough incidences where no one gets hurt and they have to pull back.
Yeah,
I hope
we'll
that
see. They are in
yeah,
Texas where there's not much in the way of regulation, and the current NHTSA doesn't seem to be inclined to do anything to stop this. So,
they were barely doing things to begin with.
yeah.
I remember I went to the Department of Transportation, like the one about the gentleman who died in a Tesla, and they spent half the time just ripping apart NHTSA.
Oh yeah, at one of the NTSB hearings.
Yeah, at the NTSB hearing, they're like they were pointing out NHTSA tweets, because they were like, oh, you should buy a car with this and this and this, and they're like, that's not their job to be selling cars. Their job is to keep you safe. This is ridiculous. Why aren't they doing anything?
Yeah,
and so NHTSA's not been doing a good job for quite a long time.
Yeah, like a decade.
Yeah.
All right. Last one before I let you go, and we do have more content after this.
So much content,
because got some stuff that I recorded with Nicole before she left for San Diego, and also an interview with the chief engineer on the Toyota BZ. But there was a story that came out on Inside EVs the other day that GM has talked about using LFP batteries both in the new Bolt as well as the base model battery pack for their big electric trucks. But they have never really talked about where those LFP batteries are going to come from. Right now, most of the world's supply of LFP batteries is made in China by companies like BYD and CATL and Gotion. And we have very little capacity for that chemistry in the US at the moment. But apparently, GM is planning to convert some of the production lines at least one of its LG joint venture plants here in the US to LFP cells, and also at its third facility that's a joint venture with Samsung. It's also going to be producing some LFP cells on some of its lines there. So it's not clear when they're actually going to start getting those. I mean, they have talked about launching the Bolt by the end of this year, although they haven't said much lately. And so I mean, it's not a huge tear up to go from producing NMC, nickel manganese cobalt cells, to LFP, but there are some changes.
It'll be, I mean, I think LFP, and then what is the other one? Magnesium?
Manganese.
Manganese. I always want to say magnesium. Lithium manganese. LMR. I think those
manganese rich.
Manganese rich.
Yeah.
Which is like manganese rico. It's I don't think the average person really understands what these mean, but for these automakers, especially when they have to dealing with supplies with the LMRs, especially with the LMRs, if you can get that running, that helps with the supply chain issues that people are having with China. And LFPs is, you're still having to deal with China. I think they own most of the patents on LFPs, but if you can make a battery for less money that has less potential for thermal runaway, which everyone's worried about, but gas cars are more likely to catch on fire, blah blah blah, that old chestnut. But if it makes the vehicles less expensive, but you're still getting the mileage that you want because of all the work that people have been doing with LFPs, then again, the average person doesn't care. To be honest, they're getting 250, 300 miles out of their battery. They're just like, I plug it in. I get up in the morning. I drive, I met someone who they drive like 100 miles each way to work. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, the average person doesn't really, it's 100 and something miles. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's, whew. Yeah. So people are doing it. So there are people who have insane commutes.
Especially
I
in
know,
California.
yeah, we're a big state, and we're very expensive, and for some reason, no one wants to build housing. But yeah, so it's we can make electric vehicles less expensive. We can sort of reduce the reliance and supply chains of China, which sort of controls a lot of this stuff. Um, it's going to help U.S. automakers and in reality U.S. drivers, because they're going to get a less expensive EV.
Yeah, and we have lots of iron, lots of phosphorus domestically. We don't need to import any of that stuff. So
Yeah,
it's pretty easy to make LFP cells. When you got the materials.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Robbie. Everybody, stay tuned. And there's several more segments coming up, and I'll get right into those. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Now for a little time shifting. Nicole I don't know where Nicole is as we're recording the main show right now, but we're recording this segment ahead of time before Nicole leaves the house.
I will be in San Diego by the time you record
that's
the
right.
show.
Yes. You will be there taking your husband out to the Julian Pie Company.
I am. That's part of what we're doing. I'm in town. I'm going to be in LA because I have a Hyundai and Genesis event to go to. But I thought we'd go to San Diego because he needs to go there too for work and for the weekend. Yeah, we're going to have some pie. I'm going to Julian Pie. That's literally my mission for the whole weekend.
Is there a variety preference?
I'm a fan. I think they call it mountain berry. It's like blueberry, blackberry, raspberry. It's all the berries. It's my favorite. What about you? Because I know you've been there too.
I'm big on the pecan. I love nuts.
Okay. Pecan pie.
What
That's
about
what Russ likes that. He's a pecan pie guy, but he likes all pies. So
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do. He's probably thinking he's going to eat some of mine, and I'm not letting that happen because he takes man-sized bites of things. Like you have a cookie, you give your husband a bite. You're like, all I have left is a crumb. How did that happen?
I know how that
he has
works.
to yeah, see, because you're a master of it too, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
he's going to have to get multiple pieces if he wants to try the mountain berry and anything else.
Okay. Well, last week now? Yes,
last week.
As we're recording this on Thursday afternoon, we were in Texas at Toyota as part of Toyota Palooza. One of the things we couldn't talk about on the previous show was our impressions of driving the 2026 Toyota BZ. No longer BZ4X, at least in North America. It's just BZ. And we got a chance to spend a little bit of time with it on the road.
Yes.
Not a lot, but a little bit. I think I spent over the course of a couple of different drive periods, probably about 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's
driving
fair.
it around Plano.
Yeah.
I also did an interview with Daisuke Ito, who is the chief engineer for the BZ platform, including the BZ, the BZ Woodland, the CHR. So we'll have that on this episode as well. He dives into some of the technical details of what they changed. But what did you think about the changes to the 2026 BZ?
So they did a lot of changes that are big, important changes. The way the battery charges faster, it's longer range. They redesigned everything. They got a bigger touchscreen. The single thing that I am so happy they fixed was the absolutely horrible, awful, terrible, very bad, no good instrument cluster they had in the BZ4X. I could never, ever, and it was the same way in the Solterra. I could never get the steering wheel. Yes. Yeah. The Prius somehow didn't get me as bad. I don't know if it's just the way the Prius is, but in the BZ, I could never get it so that when I adjusted, or the BZ4X, when I adjusted the steering wheel and the seat, no matter what combination, how I did it, the steering wheel always went through the instrument cluster. So I was either doing this awkward look over to see the information I wanted, or sort of like squinching down a little bit to see under. There was no way, I couldn't find a way around it. And it wasn't just me, because I had other people that had complained about the same thing. They fixed it. Fixed it. I can actually see the instrument cluster. So it goes from a no way would I buy this to, okay, I would maybe buy this now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think most people that we've talked to had the same experience. Somewhere in Japan, there is someone who has just the right proportions and seating position that they like to use that could actually see that cluster unobstructed. But we have no idea who that person is. Toyota has never introduced them to us. They've never brought that person out to an event or anything. But I'm sure somewhere there is one person for whom that initial setup worked.
One,
Now,
exactly one, and
Yeah.
9 bazillion for whom it does not work.
yeah. The display itself is actually the same display. It's the same. It's still 7 inches, but it sits about 2 inches higher, which is just enough. So they got rid of the kind of valley, the tunnel that leads up
That
to
was
it,
awful.
and just redesigned the whole top of the dashboard so that instrument panel display just sits just enough higher that it doesn't get blocked by the steering wheel. And then, as you said, the center touchscreen, it's had the Toyota multimedia system on there from the beginning, the current generation system, but it was a 12.3-inch screen before. Now it's a 14-inch display. So you got a little bit more real estate, a little bit, all your touch targets are slightly larger, a little bit easier to hit while you're driving. Still have the same little weird little shift controller that you got to push down and rotate right for drive and left for reverse.
Well, and I'd experienced it before, but I actually drove at one point with someone who had just happened to have not been in the BZ4X, and he sat down. He's like, "What? Oh, like immediately. That's weird." Like trying to figure out the gear shift. It is not intuitive. So it threw him the first time. I mean, it takes 2 seconds once you know. But that first moment you sit down, you're like, "What's wrong? Why can't I do this right?"
So, what do you think about? Well, let's start off with the exterior. The updates to the exterior. What did you think of that?
I think it looks good. I mean, I don't think that to me, it didn't seem like dramatic changes. I know it's changed, but it wasn't as if it was before it was horrible or amazing and now it's gone the other direction. I think it feels like a slightly changed design. It looks a little bit better to me. I like how it looks. But I was fine with how it looked before, and I'm kind of fine with how it looks now, but I don't think it's an especially remarkable design. It's kind of mild-mannered, I suppose. I don't know that it's a striking EV. What do you think?
I think the big, the most noticeable change, the headlights are a little bit slimmer than before, a little lower profile, but the big change is on the versions where all the cladding around the wheel arches
That's
is
true.
now body color.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're only doing that on the white, the gray, and the black, and technically on the black, it hasn't changed because the black already had black wheel arches,
Right.
so there's no change there really. So really, the white and the gray, it's all body color now, and it looks cleaner.
That's true. I didn't really think about that specifically, but you're right that the body cladding was dramatic on the old BZ.
It was very noticeable.
It was in your face. So now it's a little bit calmer. I had forgotten about that, but yeah. So I would agree. I think that does look better than what they had before.
So, what about driving it? What'd you think about driving it?
I mean, it drives like an EV, and it's got that strong sort of instant acceleration. It has greatly improved horsepower, depending on the trim that you get. I had the specs in front of me, and I had to reboot my computer before we went on, Sam, and now I forgot to bring them back up.
I've got them open here.
So I know that it's a pretty big jump in horsepower, and I think you can notice it. What's the number?
So there's actually a couple of 3 different variations. So one of the things they did this year, in addition to making the battery they had before slightly larger in capacity, they also now offer a lower capacity version, which presumably will be a bit cheaper. So that one's got, let's see, it's a 57 kilowatt hour battery, 57.7 kilowatt hour battery. And because you've got fewer cells in there, it's lower voltage. It's only 168 horsepower. So that's front wheel drive. So that's the XLE front wheel drive. The XLE front-wheel drive plus, which is the equivalent of the previous base, is now up from 201 horsepower to 221. And that one, I don't know about you. Did you drive both the front drive and the all-wheel drive?
I did.
Yeah.
That one doesn't. That's you really have to decide what your priority is, because very much in the horsepower department, how much do you really want that strong acceleration? If you're someone who really is looking for just an A to B thing and that strong performance isn't an issue, you might be fine with that. If you like a bit of a stronger performance, though, you're probably going to feel like that one's lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, Toyota says that one goes 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds, and I think for most people it's actually going to be fine,
right?
I mean, it's not going to be winning any drag races, but it's adequate, and so that there's that one, and that's you can get that in the front wheel drive models, both the XLE and the Limited, and then there's the all wheel drive, and it was kind of weird the way Toyota did this before. So they had the 201 horsepower motor. Previously, they had the 201 horsepower motor on the front. If you went with all-wheel drive, what you got instead was a pair of 107 horsepower motors for a total of 214. So you got two smaller motors instead. And then on the RZ, what they did was they kept the same smaller rear motor, and used the larger 200 horsepower motor on the front axle. Now what they've done for the BZ is they've done basically the same thing. So now you get the same 221 horsepower motor on the front. You get 117 horsepower motor on the rear axle. And so you get a total of 338 horsepower.
That's a lot. That's a big difference. So the difference is huge between what you have available right now in this current model year and just even prior to the prior model year. It's a big jump there. And I think you can definitely notice the difference. I felt like it was night and day. Like the old BZ4X was it was so weird, because I don't like to pick on Toyota, but it just felt like they just did it because they had to do an EV. It didn't feel like their heart was in it. It's like, okay, fine, guys, here's an EV. You have one now. Stop pestering us. It felt a little bit like that. Now it feels like, now it feels like they went, okay, we're figuring out what we want to do. We've had time to figure it out. You've had time to figure it out. We're going to take the EV that we have and we're going to make it better. We're going to improve it. We're going to fix the things that really shouldn't have been the way they were to begin with. It's almost like, this isn't their first rodeo. They know what they're doing. I don't quite, it was a weird call to do what they did. I feel like they fixed it. The performance is better. The style is better. The ergonomics inside, the interior is better. Before I would not have recommended that. I would not even tell someone to look at this car. Like the BZ4X would not have been on my list at all to suggest to somebody who was looking for an EV, because there were just so many better options out there. Why send someone to this? Now if someone told me that they were looking at this, I'm like, I can see why you might be interested in it. It's a Toyota. Toyota has an excellent reputation. And if someone said they were looking at the BZ, I'd say, okay, give the different trims a drive to see how much the varying amounts of power matter to you. Pay attention to your range, because if this is an around town car or something, you're going to go for longer drives, you want the longer range. And yeah, it's a solid vehicle. Now, what we don't know, though, is pricing. We have no idea where pricing is going to come in. They gave not a hint as to whether it was going to stay put or take a big jump. What do you think it's going to do, Sam?
I think because of tariffs, it's going to jump, because these cars are built in Japan. Last year Toyota did reduce the price on the BZ4X pretty substantially.
Which is something Solterra did too, by the way. The Subaru Solterra, which was its twin, essentially, they also reduced price on that. So in either guise, it was not doing well.
Yeah. So, the pricing was one of our big complaints when it first came out.
Mhm.
Because for what you got in terms of range and charging speed and everything, it was not competitive from a price perspective. And so they dropped the price by about $6,000 or $7,000
Yeah,
across the board.
it was a chunk.
So for the 2024 models or the 25 models, the current ones, the XLE front wheel drive currently starts at $37,000.
No.
And it goes up for the limited to just shy of $42,000.
That's just horribly not competitive with anybody
Well,
else.
yeah, I mean it's close price wise, it's closer to being competitive, but that the 2025 model, still has the relatively mediocre range.
Right. It's just if you just look at the price of an EV that's that segment,
Yeah.
sure. But when you look at the content of an EV in that segment at that price, then suddenly you have an issue. It's looking at the content. Just looking at price, you're like, well, that isn't so bad. But when you look at what you're getting, it was just not great. So I don't know what they're gonna do.
My guess is that equivalent XLE front wheel drive, it's now the XLE front wheel drive plus with the bigger battery, is probably going to be somewhere around $42,000 again. But
do you think they'll be able to sell it? Yeah.
a lot's going to depend on what happens with the tax credits, whether those go away or not. At that price point, the current XLE, it's only 252 miles of range. That XLE front wheel drive plus is 314 miles of range now. So you're paying more, but you're also getting significantly more range, and a bunch of other improvements. And then that smaller battery base XLE, that one has 236 miles of range. I think they're probably going to target somewhere between 35 and 37 as the base price for that one. Again, a lot depends on what happens with the tariffs, if the tariffs go away or not. As we're recording this yesterday, a court in New York, the U.S. Federal Court of International Trade ruled unanimously that the tariffs that the Trump administration had imposed under the Economic Emergency Powers Act were illegal. They did not have the authority to issue those tariffs. And so as a result, the tariffs on cars built in Canada and Mexico are under a different law. That's under it's a different law. It doesn't matter. So those are not affected by this court ruling, but tariffs on cars built in other countries like Japan and Korea and Europe, those are gone now. And so if the Supreme Court, they're definitely appeal this to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court upholds that ruling, then unless Congress steps in, because Congress is the one that has the authority to impose these kinds of tariffs, unless Congress steps in and does it, and I don't think they will, then we could see the prices stay roughly where they are. If not,
but as you're saying, for all of this, it is Thursday afternoon. By the time you actually
Thursday, May 29th at 3:26 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
That's the state right now. At 3:28, it could be different.
Yes.
It could change 7 times by the time Sam airs this. Yeah. So forgive us if it's changed by the time you hear it.
So, I think that's part of why Toyota hasn't talked about pricing yet. During the first evening event last week, Mark Templin, who's in charge of Toyota North America, gave a little talk. And he did say that, prices were going to go up as a result of tariffs, but, depending on where the cars are sourced from, some of these tariffs might not be in effect. And so they may not have to raise prices. So we'll see how it plays out.
And we really won't know. I mean, it's going to take some time. I think Toyota and anybody else who's hedging their bets and not really saying what they're going to charge for things yet is not the average. We're not quite sure, or we're trying to make it exciting and tell you, I think there's a certain element like, we don't know yet.
Yeah, no, and
They really don't know.
That's perfectly reasonable. They don't, and nobody else does either. And this is what makes it really hard for anybody in the auto industry right now to do any planning.
Yeah.
But certainly if the prices are anywhere near where they are for the 2025 models, I would say this is now a fully competitive product.
I agree. I'm happy that they did this. I'm happy that they made good. It's like, okay, this is what you should have given us to begin with, to be perfectly honest.
And it charges a lot faster too. I mean, one of the
Mhm.
that was the other big complaint when it
Yes.
first came out. The DC charging was limited to 100 kilowatts at first. It later was raised to 150, but it still had a fairly sharp drop off after it hit that peak. And now it still peaks at 150 kilowatts, but they say that it'll go from I think 10 to 80% charge in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, which is faster, and
Yeah.
all the things that made this a not great EV, from the range to the charging speed to the power, they fixed it all.
Yeah.
They fixed all those things. So kudos to Toyota for turning this around, and the name, and the
Yeah,
horrible
they-
screen cluster or the instrument cluster that I despised.
they really applied Kaizen, that continuous improvement philosophy to this car. They
Mhm.
listened to all of the things that we complained about for the last 3 years on
Yeah.
the car, and they pretty much fixed everything.
I think so. We'll have to see. Well, pricing, that'll be the next question.
Yeah.
Where will it come in? So,
All right. Well, have fun. Enjoy your Julian pie with Russ.
thank you. I'll report back on what we in fact did eat, and if he tried to steal my pie.
Okay. And I'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Next up is my interview that I did in Texas with Daisuke Ido, who's the chief engineer for the Toyota BZ platform. So let us begin by talking about the new additions to the lineup, the new BEVs that you've announced last week, the CHR and the BZ Woodland. I guess from how much is different? Actually, maybe it would be better to start with what has changed for the ET and GA platform for 2026, and then go from there to what have you changed for the new models. So how has that evolved? So let's start with the changes, the updates for the 2026 BZ and RZ.
We had the previous one, BZ4X, and we have learned a lot from the market. So now we have a very long list to improve. So the of course priority is the range first, and charging time to come. So we set the bigger capacity battery into a new one, and also we improved the e-axle motor and the ECUs, the computer. So thanks to the bigger size battery and the efficiency, mechanical efficiency and the electrical efficiency, we can achieve the longer range. And also, as for the charging time, we did the benchmarking of the competitors. There are two groups. One is 800-volt systems like Kia or Hyundai or another Porsche or something. That is, let's say, the premium cars. And the other one is a normal 400-volt system, and we are in the 400-volt system group. And then we found in the normal temperature, our charging time is pretty competitive, almost same level as the competitors. But in cold situation, the charging time is much longer than competitors. Then we set the preconditioning system into the new one. Then even in the cold situation where we can achieve the 30 minutes or something, that's a very competitive level, we believe.
So one of the when the BZ4X was initially launched, at least for North America, there were two different battery types, the two different suppliers for the batteries, and they had different charging rates. There was one for front wheel drive, one for the all-wheel drive versions. Has that been consolidated now down to a single battery supplier so that all variants have the similar type of performance now?
We don't say especially we are using which one for the US market.
Yeah, that's
but
fine.
We are preparing for both actually.
Okay.
Then, basic structure, basic architecture of battery are almost same, but just capacity the different. And also, we changed the software. For the charging, なんていうかな, we have some profile. In the previous model, just after the put into the gun, we try to higher power, then something like
ramping
that.
down over time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But with the current model, we try to keep the slightly not highest but higher level. Then the power is bigger than previous one. So we change the size.
More area under the curve.
Right.
So
right.
you, especially in that early part of the charging, get more energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So we change the software.
Okay. In order to support that, were there changes done to the thermal management system for the battery in order to maintain the optimal temperatures so that it could continue charging at a higher rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And then you mentioned that the structure of the battery is similar. You've got a little more capacity now. Was that done through refining of the cell chemistry or the cell architecture itself, or a combination of those factors and maybe other things?
Actually, number of cells are increasing.
Oh, okay. So internally, the pack architecture has changed a little bit to support more cells.
Oh yeah, the battery pack size are bigger.
Oh, okay.
They're very simple.
Oh, okay.
We put the cell more.
So you found a little more room to package a little bit larger case, a little bigger box to put more cells in. Okay, very good. And then I guess we talked about the thermal management, and that of course would tie into the ability to precondition the battery now as well, so you can get it to that optimal temperature now for charging. Okay, and then in terms of efficiency, the increase in range that you have is quite a bit more than the increase in your pack capacity. So presumably that came from efficiency. Can you talk a little bit more about the efficiency improvements that you've made?
The mechanical efficiency and the electrical efficiency, there are two efficiency in the car. And the mechanical efficiency is just like a gear, very conventional, and very, how to say, the lubricant level or something. So
reducing friction throughout the system.
Yeah, so very, old style, but just small improvement.
Classical engineering,
right? Yeah,
mechanical engineering thing.
Yeah. So that is a mechanical thing. But we have a new transfer axle.
Okay.
And the electrical one, and we use the SIC power systems.
Okay.
So the SIC has a more power distribution and more efficient power distribution. So that's contribute to the extent.
So you're using silicon carbide across the board on all the different variations. Okay. And then you've also got considerably more power now, both on the front wheel drive and the all wheel drive. Is that achieved through just a little bit larger motors, longer stack, or larger diameter motor? Combination of those factors.
With the previous model, We have a e-axle in front, 150 kilowatts, and the rear in 80 kilowatts. The size of e-axle is the same, but thanks to the battery voltage, it's getting higher. The power is higher. Of course, the to improve the mechanical efficiency, the e-axle itself is renewed, but the size-wise are same.
Okay.
Then still we are using let's say 150 and 80, but the voltage is different. So 167 and 87,
Okay.
something like this.
Yeah. Great. All right. So let's move on to the CHR and the Woodland, the BZ Woodland. CHR, I think from a propulsion system perspective and battery system, that's same as what you have in all-wheel drive BZ?
Yes.
Okay.
The powertrain is completely the same.
Okay. And were there other changes in the rest of the vehicle that you made? So I guess for that vehicle, kind of what was the overall goal, and what were you trying to achieve with that vehicle as different to distinguish it from BZ?
The big difference is the wheelbase. The 100 millimeter is shorter than BZ, and the platform is the same. So our advantage of eTMG platform, we can build the some valid variation type of like vehicle from one platform. Usually, platform is for the one segment. This platform is for 60 segment, but we have a Corolla, Prius, something like this. And this platform is D segment, RAV4, Harrier, NX, RX, something like this. But our eTNG can build the different vehicles.
Okay.
So thanks to this platform, we build BZ, Uran, BZ, and CHR, the different sizes.
Okay. In terms of the kind of the type of vehicle you were creating with CHR, was it meant to be maybe a little bit more sportier character than the BZ?
Yeah, I think so. So the BZ is like the center model. If we say about the conventional one, it's like RAV4, the center of the market. And if we look at the CHR, the short arm, this is for the urban use, and thanks to the smaller wheelbase, maybe more agile maneuver. So we set some sporty setting on the suspension for the CHR. On the opposite side, on the BZ Uran, we have a bigger cargo space for the outdoor use and the more powerful powertrain. So now we have 3 variations of battery. So I believe customer can choose the one vehicle based on their preferences or lifestyles or some kind of limitations.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah, and I think personally I like the Woodland form factor. I've always been a fan of the station wagon form factor. My wife and I've owned several over the years. So having that extra cargo space, especially for someone who's a little more active, would be very useful. Was there any consideration given to taking it even a little bit further in terms of perhaps a little more off-road capability, maybe lifting it a little bit more for a little more ground clearance? Because I think it currently has the same ground clearance as the standard BZ, correct? Yeah. Was that considered at all? And if so, why did you opt to go with what you have today?
The BZ is SUV, so that is the light truck category. So we believe BC and BC Woodland have enough ground clearance. And we set the a all-terrain tire for BC Woodland as an option.
Okay.
So looks like outdoor. And if performance-wise, the tire is very, different. How to say? The tire makes a difference on the performance.
Sure.
So
yeah, I mean, ultimately, no matter what else you do, it all comes down to the rubber, and that contact patch with the road or the dirt, as it may be.
Yeah.
So, all right, and compared to the standard BZ, do you expect volumes for the CHR and the Woodland to be less than that? I would assume that the standard BZ would be the highest volume model.
As a chief engineer, just we expect as much as possible.
Every Shane, in terms of mix, like the BEV overall sales mix.
Yeah, as you talk about BZ being the kind of the core model, right, in the middle, and has the most options and range and power and grades, so that will maintain the highest volume, and then when CHR and BZ will then come out next year, we expect mix to be less than BZ, but where those end up, they may be similar, but they will be less than BZ.
Okay.
So we'll see what kind of lives in the market and see which one. Obviously, both different products. So to see what's more popular and more of like what you talked about and why you like Woodland, or someone that's maybe more urban, looking for something a little bit smaller and more sporty.
Okay. And since you have a little more powerful motor combination on the Woodland than on the other two, could we perhaps see a GR CHR at some point, or a GR BZ?
Do you want?
We can't speak to future product. We're always listening.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Is that something that you would personally like to see?
I like racing car.
Okay.
I have a racing license.
Okay.
So I like racing, and my former project was LFA.
Oh. Okay. So you're very serious about performance then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, I believe that even the conventional battery EV, normal battery EV, still sporty because the center of gravity is getting lower comparing to the another ICE or hybrid.
Yeah, it certainly helps driving dynamics to have that lower center of gravity.
Right. And the torque level, the max torque is happened in zero speed. The acceleration rate is so high comparing to the ICE or hybrid. So the normal car is still sporty. So let's look at the market if the customer still need the sporty model on our normal model.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Is there anything else about the updated BZ family CHR that we haven't talked about that you'd like to share?
なんかあるかな? We changed the interior.
Yes, yeah, actually, that's it. That is an important component, especially for the driver. I think one of the complaints I know that I and a lot of my colleagues had was the way the instrument cluster display was set up, and with the steering wheel, the orientation there, the steering wheel often cut off the bottom half of the display. I was just sitting in a BZ a little bit earlier, and now I can comfortably sit in a position where I can see the entire display.
Thank you. So from our observation, during the charging, maybe over 50% of customer stay in the vehicle. So we set the USB, more powerful one. We can use the 60 watts.
Okay.
The USB, so they can use the PC or let's say iPad in the car. And Of course, we provide NACS charging systems for US market and also plug and charge.
Yeah.
So we don't need, the customer doesn't need to wait or to make some complicated
Yeah.
operation before.
Yeah, that definitely makes the charging experience easier and more seamless for customers.
Yeah.
And also moving the charge port from the driver's side to the passenger side to better accommodate use on superchargers, which have very short cables.
So so not only the conventional performance or spec, but also the experience of using battery EV improved, I believe.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Meet you.
Okay, everyone. So, in my little special segment today, I'm getting to talk to someone from Meguiar's, which are the people who make all the stuff to keep your shiny, beautiful, perfect car looking shiny and beautiful forever. So, I have Mike Pennington, whose title is really long. So, I'm just calling him the Meguiar's guy.
I will take it.
Okay. So, welcome, Meguiar's guy. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Always, Nicole. It's wonderful to be here and talk shop. And you can call me anything you need. And we'll have a great conversation on keeping your car looking its best.
Okay, so it's we're recording this right after Memorial Day. It's the Tuesday after. So this is the time of year when everyone pretty much feels like it's safe to consider winter is behind us, and you're trying to make your car look shiny and good. Coming out of winter, what's the first thing you'd recommend people do?
Man, that you hit the perfect question, because we get communications all the time through all the channels, and that is literally the number one question is, what do I do now? So it's really easy, because we know it can be very confusing. You go into a store, you buy online. There's so many products to look at. It's overwhelming. So it's really, we kind of boiled it down to kind of two simple little scenarios. And what are you working on, and how much time do you want to spend? And that's super important, because think of all the different, are you pulling a car out of the garage that was winterized? Now it's time to pull out the hobby car. Was it the vehicle they got driven every day in the snow and the sleet? And those are going to be cared for a little bit differently. So you got to kind of ask yourself, what are you working on? How much time you willing to spend? And then we kind of start to go down and choose those right items. And it's actually pretty easy once you understand those two first big questions, I guess you could say.
So what if it's, I live in New England where I spend 6 months with snow and ice. What if your car has been subjected to snow and ice and sand and dirt and grime? What would you suggest to start with to get your car looking like summer pretty?
A solid, thorough wash. That's first and foremost. And that's going to be whether you do it at your house, you run it through a good tunnel wash, you take it one of the coin-op washes, but you really want to wash away Mother Nature, the undercarriage, the wheel wells, the wheels, and get all that grime that has been sitting and attaching, and start fresh. And in some cases, it's going to reveal a beautiful finish underneath. In other cases, then you're going to go, wow, I've got some marks. I've got some light swirls. I've got some light scratches I want to get rid of first before I go ahead and put that spring wax on there to make it protected through the summer months. So a thorough, deep wash is going to be probably the first and foremost.
And then when you've done that deep wash and you find those little bits, like I always find, we use sand a lot here too. And if you get stuck behind a sand truck, it pings off your hood. And then in the spring, you see where that damage has happened when you clean off all this stuff. How do you suggest, like, okay, if I get some little paint and I do a little touch-up paint, what's the best way to protect that so you don't have that kind of damage, or to make it look as much like it's not been damaged as possible once you touch it up?
Of course, and there's you hit the nail on the head. Is before winter, we're kind of going backwards now, is make sure you get a good coat of protection, like our ultimate ceramic coating before winter starts. But coming out of it, if you happen to get some of those marks, scuffs, scrapes, that's what products like Ultimate Compound that we offer, or compounds in general, get that scuff, that scraping, those light things off to really prepare the paint. Think of it as, you're kind of exfoliating, deep scrubbing your skin before you put that sunscreen on. So again, not every vehicle needs it, but something as simple as a premium compound is going to refresh, restore, make it look good again prior to putting on your favorite wax, whether that's a polymer or, ceramic is really the top protection or top SPF, if you will, is a good way to think about ceramics in general. They protect the best.
And when you're doing the compounds, how hard is this to use? Like, is someone who generally just cleans the car, I'll do a little, I go to the car wash, I'll do a car wash, I'll clean it off my driveway, I try and fix the nicks and stuff. But is it hard to do something like these compounds and do waxing and things yourself? Is it horribly difficult to figure it out?
Well, it's funny you say that, because if we have this funny saying, if you're scrubbing and rubbing and sweating and cursing and moaning, you're probably doing it wrong. And that's probably technique. That's probably product. So if you're using, let's call it the right compound, and technology for all brands, Little and Meguiar's, but for all brands, have really come a long way. So it shouldn't be that hard. Whether the term compound sometimes come across as, let's call it intimidating, for lack of better terms, they're really easy. And one of the things we like to say is simply read the directions, on the back of whether your favorite brand is Meguiar's or you have a favorite brand that you use, that's okay. Flip that bottle over and let it be your friend. Some compounds are a wipe on, wipe off. Some you want to let sit a little while. And as long as you use the right amount, we'll also say too much is not good. More is not better in this case. And follow those directions and just be a little patient. It actually shouldn't be too hard these days with technology. It really isn't.
Okay, so I shouldn't be intimidated by the idea, because I think there's a little bit of a nervousness. Cars are something you keep for a long time. And if you make a mistake, you've made a mistake on something that you're going to show off that mistake for a lot of years.
And you were certainly not alone. And that's kind of the good side. And we'll hold people's hands and walk them through that process we'd rather have you almost be a little bit, let's call it pause and ask the right questions, whether that's, phone calls, listening to this podcast, people like yourself helping educate, DIYers, or going on a live chat or calling, the team we have, and really confirming, asking, understanding, and learning. Then you can attack it, because again, it should be easy. It should be fun. And in every case, sometimes you don't need a compound. Sometimes you need one product. Sometimes you need 3 products. It's all a little bit different, and leverage those people that can help you feel confident, get the right product, and really get those results. Because there's nothing worse. Let's face it. You spend all this time on a Saturday or Sunday, you're sweating, you're struggling, and you stand back and you go, wow, that's not as good as I thought it was going to be. Well, that's what we don't want to happen. We want just the opposite. Man, that was easier than I thought. And next thing you know, your neighbors are walking over going, what did you do? And you did X, Y, Z. And you're like, wow, that was easier than I thought it was going to be.
So for you said the compound and then do wax. So once you've got everything cleaned up, looking tidy, that's when you want to do the wax. You're talking about ceramic waxes versus, what was the other one you said?
Well, there's kind of 3 big ones without getting too complex. A lot of Carnauba was the first generation. It's been around since the 50s. And a lot of, car show people use those, and they use it just for that, nostalgia, I guess you could say, but protection value, not so much. You jump into like the polymers, and they're everywhere, like our Ultimate Wax, Ultimate Liquid Wax, Ultimate Paste. A lot of your favorite brands will still offer a polymer, and they're really good. That was kind of that next level. But nowadays you hear ceramic, hybrid ceramic, and that's that next platform that gives you that durability, that longevity, that resistance, that ability next time you wash your vehicle, the water is going to wash right off. It's going to be easier to dry your vehicle. So if you're going to this level and you really want max protection, look for things that use that term ceramic, hybrids, Meguiar's hybrid ceramic line, other ceramic lines that are out in that industry in general are going to be your best bet. And again, follow directions. They're very easy to use when done right, and they give you such great protection.
So once you've applied that, let's assume it's Memorial Day and you did this yesterday on your day off, right?
Okay.
How often in an average person do you need to reapply that? Will it get you through the whole summer? Do you need to
100%.
in the middle?
100%.
Yeah.
You'll go all the way through, let's call it the tail end of spring into summer. Well, I guess like you said, Memorial Day is officially, beginning of summer. So all the way through summer, all the way through fall. And in some cases, obviously you don't drive that vehicle a lot, but we're talking about daily drivers that get exposed.
Yeah.
We would probably still say put one more coat on it right before Mother Nature and that snow comes. You'd probably be okay if not, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So one more quick coat. Maybe it's, our hybrid ceramic spray wax. It's a quickie, it's a booster, it's supplements, and that'll carry you through winter. And then you can kind of reset next springtime again.
Cool.
But get yourself on a good, I guess, regime. We like to say frequent car care is easy car care. Run it through your favorite quality tunnel wash. Do it yourself. Stay ahead of it. Maintain it. Then it looks good all the time, and it never gets so bad that you have to restore it almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. So I always think of like summer as being easier on my car because there's not the salt and it just looks horrific here in New England. But I know there's a lot of stuff that's kind of bad for your car in the summertime too. The harsh sun, especially if you live someplace really warm. But also, okay, you got to clarify for me. So are bug guts and bird poop going to completely destroy my car? Because some people see like bird poo on their car and they're like, no, you got to get it off right now or it's destroyed forever. How bad is that stuff if you don't clean it off?
Somewhere right in the middle of what you described. So the good news is if you got, hybrid ceramic or some kind of good coat of protection, that's going to buy you a little bit of time. But if you do let that bird dropping sit on there, dry, and go for, a week, 2-3 weeks, absolutely it's got the potential to etch, which means you're going to have to pull the compound out again and re-rack and restore. So there are products in the industry called spray detailers. Like we have a hybrid ceramic spray detailer. We have a ultimate quick detailer that's polymer based. So people will keep those in their trunk. And if you happen to be on a vacation, you're at the office, you're at home, and you happen to get a bird dropping, spray it, let it lubricate up, wipe it off. You don't have to do the whole vehicle, but it gets that off of there until you have a chance to wash it the following week or something like that. Very popular thought process, but the longer it sits, the greater chance, yes. But not permanently. Probably won't permanently. You have to repaint your vehicle most likely, Doesn't know what that bird ate probably.
I know, right? No, because that was the thing. Like people always act like it's practically like acid dropping from the sky and you have to get it off.
It really isn't.
It is.
And even,
it's bad.
Your let's call it your summer, you get into summer and fall and you got pollen and sap and all these other things that, think about it, anything that flies can land on that vehicle. Quality coat of protection, frequently removing it. That is the best thing for your vehicle by far. Is don't let anything sit on there, from sap to dust to bird droppings. Have a little bit of pride and it'll be easy and it'll always look good. That's the fun part.
And what about getting the tar off your car from all the paving and construction that happens during the summer? Which
you were hitting all the perfect, all the perfect calls we get all the time.
Exactly. Well, and that's the one that always gets me because it feels like when that one gets me, I'm on a road trip, right? So I've been driving for like 2 days or something. I finally get out and look after the countless construction zones I've gone through. And I'm like, oh, crud. And you see where you don't realize how much gets on your car. Is there a good way, a bad way to handle that when you finally see that?
100%. And the good way, anytime, I guess it's just have patience and think through your head. The more you grind and rub and scrub firmly, the greater chance you have to scratch your paint finish if it's on the paint, which is going to be usually on the paint. It's kicked up from the tires. So there's a lot of great bug and tar removers that are gentle. And what we'll tell people is buy that, let it saturate, let it dwell, wipe it on those areas and let it soak. Get yourself a good soft cloth that's not a wax removing cloth, obviously, and slowly work that off. A lot of times high pressure, let's say a power washer, if you have one at your house. If you don't, you can use that coin op. Will also help remove some of that. But what you don't want to do is start grinding and rubbing it and scrubbing it with an aggressive pad, an aggressive brush, because then you'll scratch your paint. Mm-hmm. So be patient, let some good chemicals, and in some cases you want to re-wax, reapply our ultimate ceramic spray wax and get back out there and go at it again. But again, sooner you get that off, the better. And we know you mentioned it earlier, we all are in sometimes places we don't know. We're on vacation and you don't know that construction in a city where you don't live. And next thing you know, you're like, oh no, we've all done it. So just jump on that sooner than later. Again, there's a theme there is don't let anything go too long or it's going to be harder to remove, which forces you to have more work, which forces you to be frustrated and potentially damage that finish, which creates, you start this cycle of negativity. It's not good. Car care should be fun, and it really is.
So when you mentioned when you get people calling in and asking you questions, so if I have some weird situation, it's something that's marring the finish, or I'm not quite sure. I read the directions like a good DB, but I still haven't figured it out. People can actually call you and ask you, "Hey, how do I do this?"
Yeah, that's one thing we kind of pride ourselves on. I've entered 36 years. I don't know if I should say that or not. Started when I was 5. But that's where I started in that department. And that is so important to us, is on the back of every one of our bottles, you can call us Monday through Friday. Live chat is also live and active. You can also email us at the same time, but you'll get somebody that works here in Irvine, where I'm at right now. They're in fact right over there. And it's a team of, let's call them people that love to detail, been with us a long time, know our brand, know other brands, know the process of how to get you to that right point. I scratched, I damaged, I bought the wrong product. That's okay. We'll send you the right one. That's okay. And just to really make it a pleasant experience for you. And they're a great group of people. So again, just flip that bottle over and you'll see it on every one of our bottles, and they'd love to chat with you.
Excellent. Mike, thank you so much for talking to us about how to take care of your car. I have to clean mine. I have a newer car, and now it's covered with pollen because it's pollen season.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you so much.
All right, Nicole. Take care. Bye-bye.
Offer valid on standard browsers, U.S. only.
When I heard about Date My Age, I thought, really? But there I was in my empty, quiet house, my laptop on the kitchen counter, and I typed in my name. Looking for a man between the ages of 40 to 60? Sure, why not?
Date My Age is different. With verified profiles, you can feel safe and secure to explore meaningful connections with interesting and mature singles.
Date My Age made it really easy. I could join and view online profiles for free. All of a sudden, my empty house wasn't so quiet anymore. I got so much attention, it just made me feel seen and alive. Date My Age helped me start a totally new chapter in my life.
Find a friend, a lover, a partner at Date My Age. Get 60% off when you join at datemyage.com today. That's datemyage.com to connect with thousands of singles worldwide. datemyage.com.